What's going on? Welcome to the Life as I Know It podcast, and I am your host, Jason Marshall. And listen, this episode is dedicated to the financial professional that's a career agent, but maybe you feel like you've reached a ceiling, or maybe you've reached a plateau and you really can't go as far as you would like to go. And so I want to talk about the why and the how to go independent right after this. So, I've been there, right? I've been the career agent, the career financial professional within a carrier, and it's not a bad gig at all, right? It can be very rewarding, but I found myself starting to kind of outgrow the captive business model, and I wanted to be able to provide a better service to my clients, and I wanted to be able to maximize my earnings potential. And it's a few different reasons why I decided to go independent, but I wasn't quite sure on the how to do that. And so I'll just talk about the why first, and then I'll just quickly talk about the how. And then hopefully this can be, your sign to go ahead and take that next step to go independent. And so number one reason why I decided to go independent is because I wanted to do the best thing for my client. Now, what I mean by the best thing is that I wanted to offer more than just one product or a couple of products with the same company. I wanted to be able to take my clients' information that they provided me with, and I wanted to look at the total landscape of all of the providers that were out there, all the top rated carriers, and figure out the best solution for my client. Not that I wasn't trying to do the best thing for my client with the one carrier I was with, but I was very limited. I can only offer the products and services that they offered through that specific carrier. And so once I became independent, I can look at everybody. And it just gives me a lot more freedom and flexibility to be able to pivot my cases. Maybe this carrier doesn't give me the most favorable rating, well, I can shop this client out that maybe have some health challenges or impaired risk, and I can basically shop them across the carrier landscape and see who's willing to make the best tentative offer. All right, so number two, more compensation. Listen, guys, had I been independent starting out, I probably would have made close to six figures, if not six figures. But because I was captive and the way that the compensation structure was set up, I was only receiving 50 to 55% of the compensation. So in my very first year in business, I made a little over $51,000. I'm gonna be transparent. So had I got in the independent space and really utilized some of the top rated carriers that were given 100 or 100+% compensation, then I could have easily hit 102,000 in my first year in business. But because I just didn't know any better, I didn't take that step until later. So that's a good one for you as well. Is you're really gonna maximize your earning potential by being an independent financial professional. Number three, marketing and branding. So, I wasn't a big fan of the cookie cutter, marketing and branding that I had to utilize when I was, a career financial professional. Meaning that, they provided me with the flyers and the language and all of that. Now that can be good if maybe you don't know how to create your own branding or anything like that. But for me, the way I wanted to do my whole marketing and branding and advertising, I wanted to be able to speak to my audience the way that I knew that my audience could understand me. And so whenever I created marketing pieces or advertising pieces, I always had to run everything up through compliance. I had to give them my script. I had to give them my commercials and let them review everything. And then they would say, change this, change that, change this, change that. And by the time the changes came back, it was just a kind of a totally different marketing or advertising piece that I originally wanted. Even when it came down to my website, I had to utilize a website platform that they wanted me to use, and it was like $100 a month. But I found a web host that was $20 a month, that could do way more than what this could do for me or what they could provide for me. And the reason being is because I have, almost 20 years in graphic and web design experience. And so I did not want to use that. And so you want to be able to, really differentiate yourself and set yourself apart, because whenever you're captive like that, you have to use a lot of time the branding and everything that they, provide you. And so if you got, a few other, advisors in your same marketplace, then whenever you all put out marketing pieces, they're pretty much going to look the same. It might change out the name, the phone number, the picture, but the messaging and everything is the same. And listen, it's not a knock against the carrier. It just wasn't for me, because again, I can understand how you want your branding and everything to be consistent across all mediums, right? That's just like a hamburger from McDonald's in Arkansas is the same hamburger that you'll get in California. So I get it. I mean, you want to protect your brand, make sure everything is consistent. But for me, I wanted to really differentiate myself in the marketplace, and I knew how to speak exactly to my market base, or my prospective clients. And number 4, right? You don't have to worry about non-compete clauses or anything like that. Now, this was a kind of a pet peeve of mine, right? Because when I first came on board as a career financial professional, or a captive financial professional, they get you, hyped up, motivated. Hey, all right, so this is what we want you to do. We want you to take all of your, 200 of your friends, family members, co-workers, colleagues, everybody within your sphere of influence. We want you to, we want to be able to help you get going and get some business going. And I get it, right? So, I wrote down, it was called a Project 200. I wrote down the names, numbers of all of these people. These are my personal relationships. And I actually wrote quite a bit of business with these individuals, right? But when I started to feel like I wanted to venture out and really go independent, now these are all my personal relationships. Unbeknownst to me, I signed a non-compete clause. And so for the first 2 years, I couldn't proactively reach out to my friends, family members, coworkers, colleagues, and everybody within my sphere of influence that, that I was able to help with the services. So that put a really sour taste in my mouth, because these were my relationships. Now, granted, some of those individuals, they didn't care what was said on their own. They came back and did business with me on their own, right? But if I put them in a good product, I would just say, hey, stay there, stay in that product or service. But, that was really kind of a thorn in my side, is to give all those names and numbers, and then, I couldn't reach back out to those individuals once I decided to go independent. And not only that, they would give my names and numbers as orphans to the agents or the financial professionals that were still there at the carrier. So my clients were calling me saying, hey, you got this guy calling me trying to get me to come do business with him. Absolutely, I'm not going to do it, but I just wanted to give you a heads up and let you know. And so again, those are some things that just triggered me to say, you know what, it's time to go independent. So now let's talk about the how to go independent. So when I wanted to go independent, I really didn't know too much about the space. I know Jeff Hill had made mention of, some ways that I could go independent, but I was still just doing some research on my own. And so I started to just kind of do some research, and I stumbled across a company that can help me go independent, but I didn't know the acronyms of the names for these. So I finally learned that, when you go independent, you want to be able to partner or contract with what they call an IMO, or insurance marketing organization, or another name you may see is BGA, or brokerage general agency. And so whenever I started to dig a little bit deeper, I came across this website that were based out of California, this IMO. And man, they had it going on as far as the website, displayed it, because, we can do this, we can do that, and I was just like, you know what, had a good call with their brokerage partner. and I got a contract going. But it became an issue because they were 2 hours behind me. I was 2 hours ahead. And whenever I would reach out to them, you know, it became a headache because they would get back with me maybe 2 or 3 days later. I would request illustrations or need assistance in that area, and they wouldn't get back with me. But again, these were all growing pains. I had to figure out and find my way about how to go independent because there wasn't a lot of people that I knew that had actually went independent. And so lo and behold, you know, I did a little searching. And again, if you watch my video where I talked about how I got started in the business, then I talked to you about when I discovered that there was a brokerage general agency in my own backyard. And so that was the ASA group, and where I am currently serving as the marketing director for the ASA group. And so I ended up getting a contract going and everything was smooth as butter. And so if these are some things that you're starting to feel, listen, I've been there, I've done that, and I want to be able to help, you know, lead the way and show you the way. And so feel free to reach out to me. And if you want to talk about going independent, we can definitely have a conversation, you know. But for those that have, you know, maybe been on a similar journey, you know, share some of your thoughts in the comments below. And you know, be sure to like and subscribe and share this with those who may be, you know, thinking about going independent. But I just want to share those few little things. Click the link below, you know, and reach out and let's get some time on the calendar and let's talk about it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is the Life as I Know It podcast, and I'm your host, Jason Marshall. And listen, I will see you at the next one. Peace.